The year is 1994, a pivotal moment in South African history. Nelson Mandela, a beacon of hope after decades of oppression, raises his fist in victory. The world watches in awe as a new era begins. Apartheid, that brutal system of segregation, is finally over. The chains of racial oppression are broken. The African National Congress, once the vanguard of the liberation struggle, takes the reins of power, promising a brighter future for all South Africans. Fast forward 3 decades and the landscape has dramatically changed. The euphoria of liberation has faded. The dreams of a prosperous and united nation seem distant. The Rainbow Nation, once a symbol of hope, grapples with disillusionment. The promises of equality and justice feel unfulfilled. The ANC, once revered, is now synonymous with corruption, incompetence, and betrayal. Scandals and mismanagement plague the party. How did the party of Mandela lose its way? How did the vision of a united and prosperous South Africa become so tarnished? How did the promise of a just and equitable society descend into a quagmire of broken promises and shattered dreams? The reality on the ground is stark. This isn't just about politics, it's about the daily lives of millions of South Africans. It's about the millions of South Africans who still yearn for the dream that seemed so attainable in 1994. The hope that once filled the air is now a distant memory for many. It's about the betrayal of trust, the erosion of hope, and the urgent need for a course correction. The future of South Africa depends on it. Discrimination against Afrikaners, colored people, Khoisan, and Indians has also marred the nation's progress. Hate speech and farm murders have further deepened the divisions. These issues are not just statistics, they are the lived realities of many South Africans. The struggle for a truly inclusive and just society continues. Remember those service delivery protests you heard about? Those weren't just isolated incidents, they were desperate cries for help from communities abandoned by their own government. Across South Africa, municipalities are in a state of paralysis. Basic services like water and electricity are unreliable at best, non-existent at worst. Sewage spills into the streets, garbage piles up uncollected. But hey, at least the potholes are getting bigger, right? The rot runs deep. Corruption is endemic, with funds meant for development lining the pockets of unscrupulous officials. Contracts are awarded not based on merit but on political connections. The result? Crumbling infrastructure, a stagnant economy, and a population left to fend for itself. It's a stark reminder that while the ANC may have won the battle against apartheid, it's losing the war for a functional and prosperous South Africa. Imagine this. You're seriously ill. You go to a public hospital, hoping for treatment. But the waiting room is overflowing. The staff is overworked and demoralized. And the medicine you desperately need is out of stock. Tragically, this is the reality for millions of South Africans. The public healthcare system, once the envy of the developing world, is in a state of crisis. Hospitals and clinics are understaffed and under-resourced. Essential equipment is outdated or broken. Patients are forced to endure long waits, often in unsanitary conditions. And the worst part? The people who suffer the most are the poorest and most vulnerable. Those who can't afford private healthcare are left at the mercy of a system that's failing them. The ANC's neglect of public healthcare is not just a policy failure, it's a moral failing of epic proportions. Section 4. Engines of Dysfunction, State-Owned Enterprises on the Brink. South Africa has a long history of state-owned enterprises, or SOEs. These companies, operating in key sectors like electricity, transportation, and airlines, were supposed to be engines of economic growth and development. Instead, they've become black holes, sucking in billions of rands of taxpayer money while providing dismal services. Take Eskom, the national power utility. Once a powerhouse, pun intended, it's now plagued by corruption, mismanagement, and a crippling debt burden. The result? Rolling blackouts that cripple businesses and leave households in the dark. Or how about South African Airways, SAA? Once a source of national pride, it's become a symbol of government incompetence, requiring billions in bailouts just to stay afloat. These SOEs are not just failing businesses, they're millstones around the neck of the South African economy, dragging down growth and discouraging investment. Why are there not more people talking about the impact of education and language discrimination on land reform? Section 5. The bitter harvest of land reform. The Zebediela Citrus Estates saga. Land reform was meant to be the ANC's crowning achievement, righting the wrongs of apartheid. The vision was grand, But the reality has been far more complicated. The story of Zebediela Citrus Estates, once the world's largest citrus farm, is a case in point. It was a symbol of agricultural prowess. After apartheid, Zebediela was earmarked for land reform, but the project descended into chaos. Mismanagement and corruption led to plummeting production and job losses. Zebediela reflects a broader issue. Across South Africa, land reform projects have faced similar problems, leading to economic decline and social unrest. The failure of land reform is a stark reminder of the complexities of addressing historical injustices and the need for sustainable solutions. Education and language discrimination have also played a significant role in these challenges, often overlooked in the broader narrative. Section 6. The corrosive grip of corruption, eroding trust and progress. Corruption is like a cancer, slowly eating away at the fabric of society. It starts small, almost imperceptibly, but soon it spreads, infecting every part of the system. And in South Africa, it's reached epidemic proportions. The impact is visible everywhere, from the crumbling infrastructure to the disillusioned faces of its citizens. From petty bribery to grand-scale looting, corruption has become entrenched at all levels of government. It's a daily reality that people have come to expect. Politicians and officials see public office not as a public trust, but as an opportunity for self-enrichment. Remember the Gupta brothers? Their influence was a stark reminder of how deep the rot goes. Those close friends of former President Jacob Zuma, who allegedly had undue influence over government appointments and contracts, their actions were just one example of the systemic corruption. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a much larger, more insidious problem. The consequences of this rampant corruption are devastating. Communities are left without essential services and the social fabric is torn apart. Public funds that should be used for essential services are siphoned off into private pockets. Investors are scared away, leading to economic stagnation, and ordinary South Africans are left feeling betrayed and disillusioned. Their hopes for a better future are dashed by the greed of a few. Corruption is not just a financial drain, it saps the very spirit of a nation, leaving its people in despair. It's a moral crisis that erodes trust in institutions and undermines the very foundations of democracy. The fight against corruption is not just about reclaiming stolen money, it's about restoring faith in the system. Section 7. A legacy tarnished, the ANC's uncertain future. The African National Congress, the party that once held so much promise, now stands at a crossroads. Its legacy, once synonymous with liberation and hope, is tarnished by years of mismanagement, corruption, and broken promises. The challenges facing South Africa are immense. Poverty, inequality, unemployment, and crime remain stubbornly high. The economy is stagnant, and faith in the government is at an all-time low. Can the ANC change course? Can it shed its image of corruption and incompetence and reclaim its mantle as a force for good? Or is South Africa destined for a future of decline and instability? The answers to these questions will determine not just the fate of the ANC, but the future of South Africa itself. The stakes couldn't be higher. The struggle for a just and prosperous South Africa continues, but the path forward remains uncertain.